I'm fascinated by this. We threw it feels like our thought process on where Nico's headed has evolved considerably since Thursday when your story first broke. Because we were throwing big name schools out there first, and it feels like the level of school that's a potential landing spot has dropped every day.
Yeah, so when we put that story out on Thursday, the initial schools I continue to hear a lot about were like a USC, a UCLA, a Notre Dame. At this point, it's super fair to roll out USC and Notre Dame just from talking to people across the country. And then, another school a lot of people wanted to tie to Nico that really never was going to be a thing. And I put it in the initial story Saturday is Texas Tech. I mean, Tech has so much money right now with what Cody Campbell's done and the rest of that booster group, but they're locked in on Baron Morton, that QB1 from everything I've heard. And yeah, I mean, while it could make a lot of sense on paper, it's just not something that Joey McGuire and co kind of want to go down that road with.
Are there any other schools that you think could get into the mix besides the few that you put into the story yesterday?
Yeah, so UCLA is still very much like a viable option. I mean, I got a phone call last night that UCLA feels like they're still in the mix on this. I put Tulane out there yesterday, and I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's a top school." No, I had conversations and wrote in the story that Tulane is the quarterback, 100% be open to Nico, but I think a lot of things would have to shake out, and they're definitely not going to hit that market value that Nico's camp is looking for. And then North Carolina is super interesting. They are a buyer in the spring quarterback market. But we broke the news yesterday that the South Alabama quarterback Gio Lopez is hitting the portal. And North Carolina is viewed as the favorite, taking the Tar Heels out of the mix for Nico.
Yeah, and it sounds like, because I saw the Michael Lombardi tweet from 2 days earlier. I think it was on Saturday, with good news coming soon for the Tar Heels or something like that. And it seems like that was targeted at Gio Lopez news that was eventually going to come out. Yeah. And we joked about it yesterday, the idea of a Bill Belichick Team Nico negotiation. But let's be real here. That's not Bill Belichick's style. Like, if we go back to him at the Patriots, he's more of I'll take distressed assets for very low money. Like if you're known to be a problem or known to have issues, he'll take you for a rock bottom price, but he ain't paying for you.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we saw yesterday is Bill Belichick kind of show off how he's going through college football in relation to the NFL. He was all about finding the diamonds in the rough per se in the NFL, and I think he's kind of doing that with Gio Lopez, right? Someone who really showed out at South Alabama this last year. Now, yeah, I reported this yesterday. I do not think North Carolina was going to pay what Nico was asking for unless Nico wanted to come down on price. And, the other thing too, and Andy and Ari, you've spoken about this so much. We always keep saying Nico. There's a lot of more to Team Nico than just.
I like to say Team Nico because I think that better describes it, because it's not him. But I wrote in this column that just came out at On3 where I was explaining how the secret to avoiding these kinds of messes is hidden in Kirby Smart's rant from a couple weeks ago. For the purposes of a coach and really for the purposes of the fan base, you can't separate Nico from Team Nico, because if Team Nico is going to lead Nico around and make Nico make all his decisions,
sure,
it's the same thing. They're the same person, same entity at that point.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Pete, so I'm trying to read your story, and I'm reading the internet, and I'm reading our chat, and it sounds like North Carolina's out. Tulane is probably the last place that he could end up because of money issues. UCLA feels like a viable decision. So, is this UCLA or bust? I think that there's a lot of excitement about where he's going to end up, and I think the reality, once you said that North Carolina is off the table last night, is that his situation is not going to be as good program-wise as Tennessee, and certainly not financially what he was probably going to make. But, are there other teams out there that could fall out of the sky, or is this like UCLA or he's screwed?
I'm not going to rule out other schools falling out of the sky just yet, just because of he is Nico Iamaleava, and he did show at times last year at Tennessee that he was one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. It does feel like all eyes, though, are on UCLA right now, and can that deal get done, and can UCLA pay up for what they're looking for and things like that. The other thing I will say, too, is I think we could be having a different conversation right now if this was December and he could still go in the SEC. I think the timing of all this has made a huge impact on the school selection.
Because the thing that I think is interesting here, Andy, not to cut you off, excuse me, is that if it is all eyes on UCLA, then what's to stop UCLA from putting the screws to them financially? Because, you know, if they're in a position where they're the only viable option, then they'll say, hey, listen, buddy, you can come here for $700,000 or you can go find somewhere else. And that other this doesn't have to be the leverage is on the other side of the table now.
Yeah.
You
And
had the leverage. They don't have it anymore.
And the flip side to all of this, too, is the reason why I'm not saying like I'm not rolling out certain schools right now is because Tennessee still needs a quarterback. And until Tennessee gets a quarterback, it's going to have another domino effect, too, depending on who Tennessee gets and where they go. And could Nico slide into the school that loses a quarterback to Tennessee? Like, and I'm not saying it's all going to blend together just like that, but I think we're still going to see some doors open for Nico this spring.